Hi kids, it's Pastor Alan here again. Last week we finished our series in the Lord's Prayer, and this week we're starting a new series. We're going to be looking at Psalm 23, and we're going to take several weeks to do this. Hopefully at some point during this series we're going to be back meeting together again in person, and God willing, I'll continue on, and maybe we'll be able to record them at the same time. So it'd be nice to have a nice set of this by the time it's done. And so I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to explain how we're going to be looking at this for the next little while. So this is Psalm 23. It's a Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I want to suggest that over the next little while, as we're looking at this psalm, that you take time to memorize it. It's a wonderful part of God's word to hide in our hearts. It's been a great blessing to me, and I hope it'll be a great blessing to you as we look at it over the next several weeks. Before we actually get into the words of the psalm itself, I'm going to take some time over the next few weeks to give some background so that we're able to understand the psalm that much better. So first of all, what are the psalms? Well, the psalms, there's 150 of them in the Bible. The Hebrew word, the original title is Tehillim, and they're songs. They're meant to be sung. And so the Psalms are a God's songbook given to us. David, that's the same as King David, who wrote this psalm, Psalm 23, the same David that killed Goliath. He wrote about half of them, and the other half were written by all sorts of other people. Sometimes the psalm tells us who wrote it, as in this case, it begins, a Psalm of David. Some of the psalms are what we call anonymous. Anonymous simply means we don't know who wrote it. The psalms express all sorts of things. A lot of them are kind of sad. We call those laments, where the person writing the psalm is struggling with something and crying out to God for help. Others are psalms of praise, where the person is praising God. This one is reflection, where David is thinking about God in a particular way. And there's so much for us to learn from it once we actually get into the psalm, which we'll start doing, as I said, in a few weeks. But what I want to do is I want to look at another psalm first to help us to understand the psalms. We're going to look at the first one, Psalm 1. Some people call them chapters. They're not actually chapters because each of these psalms stands separate. There's the odd one that seems to flow into the next one, but most of them are individual songs. So the very first psalm acts as a sort of introduction to all the psalms. And it goes like this: Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. So in this, the very first psalm, the writer, who is anonymous, we don't know who wrote it, is contrasting the righteous. Those are the people who are right with God, who truly love him and live by his ways. Contrasts them to the wicked, the people who've turned away from God, don't care about God, and do their own thing, live their own way. The righteous, according to this psalm, they prosper, they live, they're helpful, their lives produce really good things, and they live long. The wicked, their lives are destructive. They'll be forgotten. They're very, very unhelpful. And the thing that makes the two different is the righteous thinks God's thoughts because they've learned God's word. The wicked, they just talk to themselves and others. People are just like them, and they grow in foolishness and stupidity and evil. And that's why their lives eventually are going to completely fall apart. While the righteous, who have learned God's words and learned God's ways and live according to God's ways because they've learned God's word, they're going to live forever with God, and their lives will be a blessing to others. And so the Psalms remind us of, or teach us rather, how to think God's thoughts. And that's what Psalm 23 is all about. David, in that psalm, is helping us to learn about life in the way that God looks at life. And so that's what we're going to be doing, and we're going to continue on this theme next time. So God bless you and your families. Keep healthy, keep safe.